Hi, I'm Tori, and today I'm going to be discussing the book Zero Sum Game by S.L. Huang. This is the first book in the Cass Russell series. It was published in 2018, and I listened to the audiobook narrated by Lauren Fortgang. So this is the story of a young woman who is basically a mercenary retrieval expert, and she can fight anyone and win almost any battle because she is supernaturally good at math. And so as she's looking at the world, she can perceive the tiniest details and figure out the equations for how the world works and how things move. And she can manipulate any force to work for her and just figure out how to perfectly manipulate physics to do exactly what she wants. And she has no physical special capabilities. She just uses math to achieve pretty much anything she wants. And Cass is so much fun. She seemed kind of like a combination to me of Sherlock Holmes and Domino from the Deadpool movies. In those action scenes from Deadpool where, Domino can just bounce around and do anything, she miraculously survives. But this wouldn't be luck because Cass can calculate everything, like the slow motion scenes in the Sherlock Holmes movie. I would really love to see a movie adaptation of this, actually, where you could see all the numbers running through her head. They'd have just all this jumble of math running across the screen to calculate everything and do the slow-mo fighting thing, and then have it speed up and see her just bounce around and accomplish all these amazing things. I feel like that would be so cool on screen, and this definitely needs to be in a theater. And I did look up the author. S.L. Huang has a math degree from MIT. She is a weapons expert and she is a stunt woman. So she is very qualified to write this book, and it shows. It's so well written, and the way that she talks about how math shows up in the world and all the different kinds of weapons they use, everything, it's just such a pleasure to read. The whole thing was just so much fun, and I highly recommend it. If you want to read this book, please go do it. You will not be disappointed. Then come back to hear my opinions. This book made me so happy. I love math, and I love seeing a protagonist who was this impressive, capable action hero, and all of those capabilities came from a knowledge of and love of math. And I want to recommend this book to all my friends who complain about how much they hate math and say, see, math is amazing. Math will let you do anything. I just loved seeing how Cass perceived the world and how she had this freedom. She almost never felt like she was out of options or helpless. She knew that she could get herself out of pretty much any situation because she could do anything. And it was like this unlimited capability that math just gave her. And that was so much fun. And I have mid-range math knowledge. I took some calculus classes and differential equations and stuff, but I don't have a math degree or anything. So I can't say for sure how accurate this was, but they don't actually break down any of the math for you. They just talk about different names of theorems and equations and things like that. And all of them sounded completely legitimate to me. Someone with more knowledge may have a better idea if they were applied correctly or used in the right context, but to me it sounded great and I loved it. And it seemed like the world was very logical and there was a lot of internal consistency with what Cass's calculations could do for her and how they could help her succeed in the world. The only thing that really stood out to me as not being very plausible was when she was watching a woman sleep and calculating how long she would sleep based on her body mass. And that did not make sense to me because body mass, as far as I know, doesn't have anything to do with sleep, there are many other factors that can also complicate it. So that one seemed a little sketchy to me, but pretty much everything else she did seemed totally plausible and like something that someone with that much in-depth knowledge and fast calculation speed could absolutely achieve. And I loved it that this book set it up to look like Cass had made some stupid choices. She trusted Donna way too much and she told her where she was going to be, and then the biker gang attacked. And I thought it was going to be one of those typical things that happens in kind of lazily written action books where they say that the main character is so smart and capable and can do anything, but they make all kinds of really stupid mistakes. And I thought this was going to be like that. But then we find out that there was a very good reason for that, and that Donna had gotten inside Cass's head and gotten her to make those mistakes, and they were not something that Cass would have done ever on her own. And I loved it. I loved how that explained that. And then for a lot of stories like this, the main character has kind of a mysterious past and we don't know about it, and we'll learn about it as the story progresses. But as this story progresses, I found myself realizing more and more that Cass doesn't know about her own past. And it's unclear. Either she has a false memory of her past or she really doesn't know about it. But when we hear her thought processes, she's never really thought directly about it, so we don't know what she thinks of her past. We do know that she's not from the US because they made that whole comment about how she uses the word mobile and flat and says things that sound very British to me, or maybe, I don't know, Australian or some other parts of the world. And then throughout the whole book, she kept making comments about how she didn't like bad things to happen to children. And I didn't realize until we brought up Donna Polk's past and found out that she'd been abducted when she was 10 years old, that the same thing had probably happened to Cass. And from comments that happened later in the book, we realized that probably it was the same organization. It was probably Pythica or maybe a relative, some sister company. But that would be a very likely explanation. It was probably the exact same thing that happened to Donna. Cass probably had really good, strong math capabilities. She was probably a genius and could do all kinds of crazy, incredible math. And then they probably abducted her and synthetically brought out these abilities and made them much stronger than they would ever be naturally. And so the biggest question that leaves us with is, how is Rio involved? Because Cass trusts him so much. And we know that he is like a horrible psychopath murderer person, but he's built up to be really sympathetic and incredibly trustworthy and very predictable, and Cass knows exactly what he's going to do and knows that he's not going to hurt good people. And throughout the whole book, I still have this really sense of trust toward him. And so it'll be interesting to see as the series goes on if we keep trusting him and learn that he had a good reason for hiding Cass's past from her, or if it turns out that he is not trustworthy. And it's also, I'm really curious to figure out why he cares about Cass so much, because he and she both acknowledge that he does not form human attachments. He has no emotional attachment to her, because he doesn't have an emotional attachment to anybody. But he clearly cares a lot about her and is doing a lot to keep her safe. So that makes me wonder if she is still being experimented on, if maybe he is part of a different organization that is watching her and he's kind of doing field work with her right now. I'm really curious to see what happens. And we only got tiny hints of it, because in that last psychological battle with Donna, that was when Cass was starting to kind of figure things out and realizing that she has memories that she's not aware of. But those all got locked away again, and so we'll have to wait until later on in the series to find out what they were. And then I think we're going to get some more information about that final showdown too, because basically Donna had Cass in her clutches, and so she was going to win, but Cass managed to break free, and so then Rio was able to attack Donna. But then he gave Donna permission to wipe Cass's memory, and it seems like she is doing such subtle psychological things, he didn't really have a way to police her and make sure she didn't just get possession of Cass again. So I don't know how he could have safely had Donna go in and do things to Cass's mind without letting Donna be right back in the same position she was before, where she had the power to damage Cass permanently and use that as leverage. So I feel like there's a lot more that we need to find out in the next book. And it'll be interesting to see if Pythica is pretty much dead and there are bigger fish to fry and we're going to move in another direction, or if this was just sort of damaging Pythica and the overall organization is still standing and we need to go forward and keep attacking them in the future books. So many things about this book made me happy. Not only does it have amazing math and showing off how wonderful math can be, I want to have everyone I know read this book, especially like people with young children. I'd love to have those children read it and say, see, you should learn math so you can be an action hero. But then there were other great things about this book too. There was so much like ethnic diversity in it, and I thought the book did a good job of presenting that, because every time a new character approached, Cass would describe them. She'd say what gender they were and what ethnicity that they were and what height they were and how hard she thought it would be to kill them, because those are the thoughts that run through her head. And a lot of books only talk about a character's ethnicity if they're not white. So I loved it that she commented on all of the characters equally, because to her there wasn't a default ethnicity. And then I was really impressed that this was a book basically about how people relate emotionally to each other, and so many of the major plot points were around Cass building emotional relationships to people and learning to trust people and care about them. And there was no romance in this book whatsoever. Not the hint of a romantic subplot, nothing. And I loved it that it could do that, and it could take the time to let her get to know people and form all different kinds of bonds with people and talk about how she cared about different people in different ways and start to trust them. And it didn't feel the need to throw in a romantic subplot. And I just loved that so much. This book was amazing. I love this character who just let math open all the doors for her and just put the world at her fingertips. It made me so, so happy, and I'm going to go read the next book right now.